Welcome to Life Stories, where the truth doesn't just come out, it demands to be heard. What if you walked into a bank just to deposit a scholarship check and left feeling like a suspect? What if the place that should have honored your achievement instead tried to erase your dignity? This isn't just a story about a girl and a check. It's about a system that wasn't ready for her brilliance and the secrets that tried to silence her. But sometimes, the quietest voice in the room is the one that changes everything. Stay with us, because by the time this story ends, you'll realize some moments don't just shape a life, they expose a truth we all need to face. Let's step into the day everything changed for Kayla Johnson. The morning sun hung low over Crestmont, casting long, golden streaks across the polished steps of Riverstone Bank. 14-year-old Kayla Johnson stood at the entrance, adjusting the collar of her navy blue blazer with fingers that trembled just slightly. Her reflection in the glass door showed more than her school uniform and tightly braided hair. It showed a girl trying to hold together the weight of her own ambition. In her folder, clutched tightly to her chest, lay a $5,000 scholarship check. Her first major milestone earned through relentless studying, part-time tutoring, and weekend sacrifice to extracurriculars instead of mall outings or movies. She had insisted on doing this alone. Her mother, Dr. Alicia Johnson, one of the most respected financial strategists on the East Coast, had offered to come. But Kayla wanted more than just a deposit. She wanted proof she could stand in the real world on her own 2 feet. She had practiced the conversation in her head. Smile politely, show ID, hand over the check, be out in 5 minutes. But inside the bank, her fantasy quickly unraveled. The marble floors gleamed under harsh lights, the air humming with the soft buzz of idle conversation and the occasional click of high heels. Kayla approached the counter where a young teller, Sasha Kim, greeted her with a neutral smile. Kayla handed her the check and award letter, her voice calm but measured. She didn't expect Sasha's eyes to widen slightly as they flicked over the amount, nor did she expect the quiet tap of heels to signal the arrival of someone much colder. Vanessa Sterling, Riverstone's branch manager, emerged like an expensive blade, sharp, flawless, and always watching. Dressed in a fitted charcoal suit and crimson heels, she glanced at the check and then at Kayla, her gaze hardening. $5,000? And you're how old? Her voice was smooth, but loud enough for heads to turn. Kayla swallowed, her back straight. I earned it. It's my academic scholarship. Vanessa's expression didn't shift. We've had issues with fraud lately. We'll need to verify this. Sasha looked uneasy, but said nothing. Vanessa took the check and walked away without another word. Kayla stood there, unsure whether to sit or stay, but no one offered direction. Minutes stretched into 10, then 20. Whispers floated behind her. The ache in her legs deepened. No one came to speak with her again. What began as procedural discomfort twisted into something darker. Kayla watched as white customers walked in and were greeted with smiles, taken swiftly to desks and private rooms. A black man in his 20s, in a suit not unlike her mom's interns, was waved away with a clipped excuse about the system being slow. When an older white couple entered with paperwork nearly identical, Vanessa practically rolled out the red carpet. Kayla's stomach tightened. She had heard about this. Bias cloaked in bureaucracy, dressed up as protocol. But to feel it crawl under her skin, to see it mirrored in every indifferent glance, every polite smirk, it felt like drowning in a glass room. Her mind raced. Her phone was still in her locker at school. She had no way to call home. She asked again if she could make a call. Vanessa, without turning, said, "That's not our problem." And then it happened. From across the lobby, Vanessa was speaking in hushed tones to a tall man in a sleek navy coat. Kayla didn't recognize him immediately. But when Vanessa handed him a manila folder marked "Confidential," a flicker of realization hit her like a jolt. Logan Wells. The name wasn't familiar to most, but Kayla had heard it in passing, late-night talks between her mother and her legal team. Wells was the CEO of Meridian Financial Group, one of Alicia Johnson's most aggressive corporate rivals. He wasn't supposed to be here. Why was Vanessa passing him confidential documents? And why now? The folder disappeared into Wells's leather briefcase. Vanessa laughed lightly, touching his arm. Kayla's chest tightened. That laugh wasn't friendly. It was strategic. Calculated. She glanced at her folder, empty now except for her award letter. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer clarity of what was unfolding. This wasn't just about her check. She was witnessing betrayal, corporate espionage. She pulled out her leather-bound notebook. She had carried it everywhere since 5th grade, filled with quotes, observations, tiny sketches in the margins. Now it became her lifeline. She jotted down everything: time, names, the contents of the folder, expressions, movements. She wrote like she was trying to preserve something on the edge of being erased. As Wells exited the bank, brushing right past her without a glance, Vanessa returned to her place at the counter. But now her eyes found Kayla and held. The smile was gone. In its place, something tighter, controlled, threatening. A security guard approached. Vanessa's voice, low and precise, said, "Keep an eye on her. We don't need her leaving just yet." The man nodded, positioning himself behind Kayla like she was a suspect. Her pulse pounded in her ears, her knees locked to keep from shaking. She didn't know what Vanessa had given Wells, but she knew her mother needed to know. She needed to get out. The guard shifted. The light from the ceiling struck Vanessa's nameplate just as the front doors opened again. Heels on marble, the entire room turned. There, framed in sunlight and power, stood Alicia Johnson. She wasn't supposed to be here. What would you do if the world taught your child they didn't belong, on the very day they proved they did? What if your greatest rival was hiding in plain sight, and your own institution handed them the knife to stab you with? And just like that, the balance of power shifted, but not in the way anyone expected. Because Alicia wasn't here for business. She was here for war. Alicia Johnson didn't hesitate. She crossed the marble floor like it belonged to her, her heels slicing through the silence. The lobby, moments ago a hive of distant chatter and perfumed judgment, had fallen utterly quiet. Even Vanessa Sterling, who moments earlier stood like a queen behind the counter, straightened as if trying to reassemble her crumbling authority. Alicia's eyes locked onto her daughter. Kayla stood rigid, her shoulders braced in quiet defiance, but Alicia could see it. The trembling in her fingers, the red-rimmed edges of her eyes, the hurt she was trying to swallow whole. "Kayla," Alicia said, her voice low but firm, her eyes scanning every inch of her daughter as if checking for hidden wounds. "Are you all right?" Kayla nodded slowly, but her voice betrayed the weight she carried. "I'm okay, Mom," she whispered, then added, "but there's something you need to hear." She reached into her backpack and pulled out her notebook, its spine slightly frayed, corners bent with years of use. As Alicia listened, Kayla spoke, calm, deliberate, and without flinching. She described the suspicious meeting between Vanessa and Logan Wells, the folder marked confidential, the cold glances, the discriminatory treatment, the silence of the staff. She recited her notes as if she were delivering testimony. And as Alicia listened, her face changed. Composure remained, but the soft edges were gone. What replaced them was steel. When Kayla finished, Alicia turned to Vanessa. "Would you care to explain?" she asked, but her tone wasn't curious. It was judicial. Vanessa blinked. "I don't know what this girl is talking about," she said, her voice stiff, her gaze sliding past Kayla like she was still invisible. "This girl," Alicia said, taking a slow step forward, "is my daughter. And what she's just described isn't just unethical, it's criminal." The room held its breath. Vanessa opened her mouth, but Alicia raised a hand. "Don't insult either of us by pretending you don't know Logan Wells. I know who he is. I know what he wants. And if I find one document in your possession that matches anything from my firm's confidential reports, I'll bury him and you with a federal lawsuit." Security moved in without being called. The same guard who had shadowed Kayla now stood awkwardly, uncertain of which command to follow. Alicia addressed him directly. "Please escort Miss Sterling out of this bank. She's terminated effective immediately." He obeyed, but Vanessa didn't go quietly. Her voice, suddenly shrill, echoed across the walls. "You think you can walk in here and take over?" she spat. "This bank doesn't belong to you." "No," Alicia said softly, "but justice does." And as Vanessa was led out, Alicia turned to the remaining staff and customers, her voice rising not with anger, but with clarity. This institution will be audited from top to bottom, not just for security breaches, but for dignity, equality, and the kind of humanity that should be non-negotiable in a place like this. Applause didn't erupt. No one clapped, but heads nodded, eyes softened, and something shifted. The silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was respectful. But for Kayla, standing in the shadow of her mother's strength, something deeper stirred. A question. A fracture. Something no one else could see. As they left the bank together, Alicia placed a hand on her daughter's back, guiding her gently. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You didn't fold. You stood your ground." Kayla wanted to believe her. She should have felt victorious. But instead, the questions kept circling. Why did no one in the bank speak up? Not Sasha, not the other customers, not even the security guard. Was silence really that easy when injustice wore a suit and heels? That night, Kayla sat at her desk. The scholarship check finally deposited, her notebooks spread wide. Her mother was in the other room, on a call with legal. The house was quiet, but her thoughts weren't. She wrote in bold ink across a clean page. What if being good isn't enough? What if the system is designed to break you before you even begin? But then she paused, and beneath it she wrote, "Or maybe I'm meant to break it instead." Just as she was closing her notebook, her mother's voice called from the hallway. "Kayla, can I talk to you?" She stepped into the living room where Alicia was holding a manila folder. Not the one from the bank, but one nearly identical. "I didn't want to tell you this earlier," Alicia said. "But what you saw today wasn't just about that folder. It wasn't just Logan. There's something you need to see." She opened the folder. Inside were copies of emails, internal memos, and photographs. One of them showed Kayla, taken that morning, at the bank, from behind. "There's more going on here than we thought," Alicia said quietly. "Someone was watching you, and they weren't with the bank." Have you ever realized too late that your fight was only the surface of something far more dangerous? Because now, the real battle was no longer about one girl and a check. It was about who had been watching, and why. And Kayla was already in the center of a storm she didn't even know had a name. The photographs weren't grainy. They were crisp, deliberate, framed like they were taken by someone who knew exactly what mattered. One showed Kayla from behind as she stood at the bank counter. Another from the moment she was led by security. A third, hauntingly, caught her glancing up at Vanessa and Logan during the exchange. Alicia's fingers trembled slightly as she placed each image on the coffee table. Her daughter sat beside her, silent, her body tight with something between fear and fury. "Someone tailed you," Alicia said quietly. "This wasn't surveillance footage. This was personal." Kayla didn't speak. Her mind ran in too many directions. She thought back. Had anyone followed her? Had she missed something? Had her desire to prove herself opened a door to something she couldn't close? "They knew who you were," Alicia added. "Not just a student with a scholarship check. They knew you were my daughter." The truth settled over them like a weighted blanket. This wasn't random. It wasn't just about discrimination or a rogue bank manager. This was targeted. Calculated. In the following days, a private investigation revealed that Vanessa Sterling had been feeding internal documents to Logan Wells for over 6 months. But what shocked Alicia most wasn't the espionage. It was that the decision to watch Kayla had come from higher up. Vanessa hadn't acted alone. Someone within Meridian Financial had approved tracking the daughter of their main competitor, hoping, perhaps, to find a weak point, a scandal, or simply to intimidate. But they had underestimated her. Underestimated both of them. Alicia went public. Within days, headlines swept financial media. CEO's daughter detained in bank scheme, tied to corporate espionage. News anchors praised Kayla's composure. Civil rights leaders pointed to her story as another example of systemic bias hiding in plain sight. But it wasn't just a news cycle. It was a reckoning. The board of Riverstone Bank issued a formal apology. Vanessa's banking license was revoked. Logan Wells denied involvement, but the photos told a different story. Under pressure, Meridian stock tumbled and investigations opened in multiple states. And yet, for Kayla, none of it felt like justice. She returned to school weeks later. Her classmates welcomed her with applause and whispered admiration. Her scholarship was secure, and she was now seen as the girl who stood up. But inside, something had shifted. She wasn't sure she liked being seen. One night, as fall crept into Crestmont and the trees outside her window turned shades of fire, Kayla sat by the window with her journal, the same one that had started it all. She wrote slowly, deliberately, as if carving meaning into the page. People don't always listen when you speak up, but sometimes, if you stay quiet, they'll bury you where you stand. She closed the book and looked toward her mother, who stood in the kitchen, still in a blazer, still on a call. Alicia had always been unbreakable, but now Kayla saw the cracks too. The exhaustion, the weight of raising a daughter in a world that saw strength as a threat and vulnerability as a weakness. Later that week, Kayla was invited to speak at a youth leadership summit in D.C. Her speech wasn't rehearsed. She stood on a polished stage, light in her eyes, heart in her throat. "I didn't set out to be brave," she told the crowd. "I just wanted to do something normal. But the truth is, being black, being young, being female means normal isn't always safe, and silence doesn't protect you, but your voice might save someone else." The room stood in thunderous silence after she finished, the kind of quiet that holds breath. She walked off stage and into the arms of her mother, who for the first time in weeks let herself cry. Months passed. The story faded from headlines, but not from memory. Kayla became a quiet symbol in her community, not just of courage, but of clarity. She didn't chase attention. She didn't need it. She volunteered at literacy programs, started a blog on youth empowerment, and most importantly, she listened. Because she knew the world didn't change all at once. It cracked slowly, under pressure, and someone had to be willing to press, even when it hurt. And yet, on the anniversary of the bank incident, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a note. "I watched you that day. I was supposed to say something. I didn't. I'm sorry." Attached was a photo, grainy, slightly crooked. It was of Kayla, taken as she stood alone in the corner of the bank lobby. But this time, she wasn't looking down. She was looking straight at the camera. Eyes fierce, back straight. Kayla stared at the photo for a long time. Then she smiled, not because everything was okay, but because someone, somewhere, had finally seen her. What emotions did this story stir in you? And what does justice look like in your eyes? If you felt moved, comment 100 below. Tell us what country you're watching from, and don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching Life Stories.